Hello, my name is Benjamin Hart. I'm an American attorney and the Managing Director of Integrity Legal here in Bangkok, Thailand. As the title of this video suggests, we're discussing property title searches here in Thailand. For those who are unaware, property title searches, this is generally done in the context of a conveyancing or a property transfer. So basically, if you're looking at buying a piece of property, it's a really good idea, in my opinion, to have the due diligence done, especially done by a legal professional who knows what they're doing with respect to a property title search in a given jurisdiction. With respect to Thailand, this can be especially important because, especially foreign nationals, they can find themselves falling into some serious pitfalls if they don't deal with someone who knows how to deal with the property market with respect to, the actual, well, actually not the property market, I should say, the land office. And the land office, not unlike what's called the registrar of deeds back in most U.S. jurisdictions, the land office basically keeps a record of property developments, property titles, mortgages, leases on those properties, any kind of encumbrance. And so it's a good idea to do a search, not only to find if there's any encumbrances, for example, outstanding mortgages, for example, on the property, but also to ascertain if the person claiming ownership actually owns the property. And this is especially the case when you're dealing with real estate contracts. We have other videos on this channel discussing that, but to just kind of briefly go over it here, if the entity or person that you're signing a real estate contract with is not actually the person that's on what's called the Chanote title, the title deed, the freehold title deed, and presumably in this case, then you may want to figure out why that's the case. Why aren't you signing a real estate contract with the person that actually owns the title? This all sort of came to the forefront of my mind when I was reading a recent article from the Phuket News. That's the PhuketNews.com. The article is titled "Real Estate Market in Phuket, Pros and Cons." Again, real estate market in Phuket, pros and cons. Very good article, a lot of insight in that article. I urge those watching this video, go check out that article for themselves. But we're going to quote just an excerpt here. There's a lot in here, a lot of information, a lot of good insight. I urge folks watching this to check that out. Quoting directly, "It is extremely important to always make a title search on the property or land you want to purchase. This title search is a comprehensive examination and will lay out the history of the property. This is important as you want to be informed about any mortgages, leases, creditor right of ownership, or other charges against the property before even considering." And yeah, that's definitely good insight provided in this article. You do want to go ahead and do a property search as well as other types of due diligence when obtaining or attempting to obtain property title here in Thailand. Again, one thing that's not even directly mentioned in here, probably because a lot of folks just presume, of course somebody that's saying they own a piece of property owns that piece of property, but in point of fact, that may not necessarily be the case. I can remember there's a book out there, it's called The Telephone Booth Indians, and it's a very good book. It talks about, well, actually it's excerpts from newspaper articles in the 1930s. And in this one chapter, they talk about the telephone booth Indians. And the telephone booth Indians, basically, they would go around in New York City and they would put for sale signs on vacant property that wasn't theirs. And then they put a phone number on that property, and then they would just sit in a phone booth all day long in various office buildings in New York. And if somebody called, they basically pretend that they own that property, and they get them to put down some sort of deposit or some sort of money, or maybe even sell the thing outright. And that person would believe that they were buying property, but in fact they were not, or they were gaining some sort of depository right against anyone else buying property, when in fact they were not doing so. I'm not saying that's going on in Thailand. I'm not saying that's a particularly common occurrence, but it's not unheard of. And it's one of the main reasons for a property title search to occur, and why it's probably a good idea to have a legal professional undertake such a search in order to mitigate any possible problems for oneself in getting property conveyed to them here in the Kingdom of Thailand.